Hey, welcome to the new semi-new studio, the new setup. My name is Damon Brown. Thanks for watching Bring Your Worth TV. I'm an entrepreneur and coach. If you're a side hustler, if you're a solopreneur, if you're a non-traditional entrepreneur, that means you're doing your thing. I got two little kids. They're 9 and almost 12, and been doing my entrepreneurship the whole time being stay-at-home dad. And if I can help you on your journey, and you need the tips and tricks to have sympathy or empathy for your journey, for all the juggling that goes with you take care of other people, you wanting to have a life outside of just grinding it out, and you actually have a life outside of your business, or at least want to have one, you are in the right place. If you want to learn more about me, it's at damebrown.net. You can watch Bring Your Worth TV every Wednesday, most Wednesdays, at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. Live shows on Wednesday, and they have some special shows, usually on Sunday at the exact same time at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You can subscribe for free if you don't want to miss anything. This is episode 431. So even if you end up not catching the live shows, I know like for some of y'all it's the middle of the day or what have you. Shout out to my folks that are in Australia and beyond, where you might be watching late at night. But if you're not able to catch the live shows, you can always watch the recaps, and also there's clips on there and all these things that as a subscriber you'll be privy to, and you get the complete Bring Your Worth collection right by my big head. If you're watching, if you're watching live or on the screen, the Bring Your Worth collection, the complete Bring Your Worth collection, is my love letter to y'all. I've had several best-selling books. This compiles a few of them together, as well as some of my business books that you guys have really appreciated. It includes the Bite Size Entrepreneur trilogy, which y'all really appreciate and turned into a bestseller, as well as Bring Your Worth, which is a little book that could. Love the book enough to where I named my company that. Of course, this show, and Build from Now: How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, and Nourish the World. My personal favorite came out when we were in the thick of the pandemic, and it was really a message that resonated with a lot of y'all. All that's available there. If you want to hear it, you of course you can get it any audiobook retailer and so forth, or you can go ahead and listen to it here on the channel at bringingworth.tv. You actually will be supporting the channel, because then that'll be more views and more watch time as far as supporting the channel and giving the boost that it needs. And you'll be able to get it for free. So check it out. And it's again my gift to y'all. If you happen to miss it, a little while ago we had a When to End a Business Partnership, another live show, and I talked about how to wrap something up. Um, how to wrap up something personally, how to wrap up something with business. And often the business and personal kind of intertwine. So address all that, as well as giving some hopefully good insights to uh, to get you on your way. Excuse me, because there's so many things that I've done that I'm proud of, and I'd say more than half of them, almost all of them, to be honest, had other people involved. And I'm very much an eagle when it comes to being independent, and creating my own stuff. There's my channel, the book right here, as well as the book right here, and a lot of the books behind me are actually through my publishing company, Bring Your Worth. And I help a lot of y'all that are independent, but you do need to interact with other people, and you're not going to be able to do everything. So it's important to know how to manage those relationships as you move forward. Today's show, I'm so excited about today's show, especially with the new format and the new vibes of it. Hopefully, you guys are digging it. It is about why you might not be ready for success. I think it's a really important discussion to have, because when it comes to actually becoming successful, it's not just a matter of you saying, "Oh, well, I'm gonna become a millionaire," or I don't know, I'm gonna build the biggest company in the world, or my startup's gonna be known all over, like whatever that big goal is. And I'm excited for you to have that goal. I think that drives us. I think that's exciting. We have to know the intention behind that goal. If we know the intention behind that goal, then I think we're more likely to achieve it. Because if you don't know why you're doing it, then it kind of defeats the purpose. So today we're going to talk about three strong ways to get yourself prepared for success. As I often say, and I think I said this several times in the Bring Your Worth book series, we often prepare for failure, but we don't actually prepare for success. So we have our plan B, C's, D's, all the way to Z. Shout out to my UK folks, all the way to Z. And it's like, all right, well, I have this backup and that backup, which is good. I got backup plans too. In fact, there were times where I wish I had backup plans, but then we don't really have the faith that we're actually going to succeed. So then, if success does come, it goes right through our fingertips. I've been through quite a few things from being on the second stage of the main TED conference to making a good living, being independent, to having the best-selling books, to selling my last startup called Cuddler, which I talked about at the on the last episode as far as with ending business partnerships because we came together as a partnership, me and my two other partners, and then we disbanded once we sold the business. And I know if I wasn't prepared for those successes, they would have just blown away, especially when you're managing a family or you're trying to live some type of life. So we're going to talk about that today and three ways that you can get more involved with that. Today we're going to also talk about my newsletter that comes out every Wednesday at 5:55 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. See the sweat starting to appear here. We're actually having a cool day, but it's still 95 in the house. And I have a newsletter that's been coming out for literally decades, but really officially for the last 5 or 6 years, every Wednesday in the morning. And thank you for riding with me. It's a free newsletter and talking about things that I usually don't even talk about here on the show, even though I hang out with y'all weekly as well. Today we're talking about snails, not circles, and it's um, an example slash symbol that my mentors gave me. Um, man, maybe I was in grad school. Like it was a long time ago. You see the gray hairs, so it was a long time ago. I might have even been a teenager. When we're in certain situations, we feel like we're living Groundhog's Day. It just keeps repeating. It keeps showing up. It's like, oh crap, how did I get into this situation again? Or I thought this was done and it's not done, and I'm tired of it. That can feel like going in circles and just repeating the same thing over and over again. And as you get older and or as time passes, it's like, why do I feel like I'm making the same mistakes? There are two truths that kind of come about with that, as we kind of feel that frustration. When it comes to an actual circle, and if I can grab a pen, I can draw a circle for you. When it comes to a circle, this is what we feel, right? Sorry for my circle. The artistic genes went to other people in the family. Shout out to my dad. But do you see that? That's a circle. So we're doing the same thing over and over again. That means we're not growing. That means we're frustrated. That means we're dealing with the same stuff. That's a circle. But if you're familiar with a snail, it's almost like a cornucopia. In fact, it is a cornucopia. I'm originally from Atlantic City. Shout out to AC. And so I know the sea well. I grew up with the sea. Um, and so you're seeing the water, you're seeing the flow, you're seeing these symbols, these infinite things. And that's what you have here. That is a snail shell. If you happen to see snails outside, I don't know what their season is, but that's what their shell looks like. And you notice, if this is where you begin, and you go back here, suddenly it feels like you're in the same spot. And then if you go again, it again feels like you're at the same spot. Feels like you're at the same spot, but you're not, obviously. It's not a circle, it's a snail. Two things come from this. The first thing is that when you end up repeating something or it feels like you're repeating something, you're not the same person that you were when you encountered it before. So if it's a toxic dynamic or relationship, if it's a bad job, career wise, or situation, if it's a financial jam, all these things that I've experienced way more times I'd like to admit. And if you're an adult, you probably have experienced it many times too, no matter how much hard we try or how much we're going through stuff. But each time you're actually gathering more information. That doesn't mean that things going to change. It just means you have more information. Therefore, you're able to build in a different type of way. So first of all, you are the one that's different. The second part is that the situation itself is different. If you're in a toxic relationship, again, it could be personal, it could be work wise, whatever, toxic friendship, had all three. So I got you. I know where you're coming from in those situations. And then that ends up ending, or you end it, or situations change. And you have in the same situation, you're not going to be exactly the same. Even if you're more angry the next time, even if you're more frustrated, you're still not going to be the same person. It's literally impossible. Scientifically, you are a different person when you encounter something again. So then that's our infinite life. Encountering these different things, experiencing these different things. And then suddenly we wake up one day or we have one moment where we know another path we can take. So then, even though we still might be in that snail circle, we know exactly how to deal with it. But that takes time. In fact, perhaps that'll be the third element of the snail idea is that snails are not in a rush. If you have time, look up the unstoppable snail meme, and you'll understand how powerful snails are. I talk about that more in the newsletter, and it applies to things today as far as being prepared for success isn't a matter of you being a quote unquote failure now and then being successful tomorrow. It's a matter of you learning as much as you can as you go through this snail space and pace. And as you learn that, and suddenly you become quote unquote successful and becomes a different level. So when it comes to what we're talking about today, excuse me, about you might not be ready for success, I found it comes down to three different things. The first thing is do not pre feel your feelings. Shout out to Dan. Love you. I appreciate you. I was talking to a good friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about that, where when you go through certain things, it's easy, particularly for myself. I'm a strategist, I'm a business coach, to kind of go through the emotions and say, well, I'm going to feel this, and then I'm going to feel this, and then I'm going to feel this, and then I'll feel that, and then I'll be through, and maybe a fifth thing, and I'll be through the Kubler Ross 5 stages of whatever, of death or what have you. That's not how it works. Now, I think it's good to have a framework around what you might be feeling or what you would feel when you have this particular success. Like to go ahead and say, all right, when I become a millionaire, I'm going to feel elated. I'm going to feel excited. Like there's nothing wrong with navigating those feelings that you might be feeling and or that you might feel and understanding to the point of understanding what you would get out of it. Like if let's stick with the millionaire idea. If you say when I'm a millionaire, whether it's in cash in the proverbial bank or liquid assets or it's through just your net worth. Is that going to make you feel safe? Is that going to make you feel excited? Are you going to feel superior? Are you going to feel accomplished? Um, are you going to feel like your legacy is solidified? So you have pride in that. What is it that you're actually going to get out of it? That's one thing. I think that's a good thing. I think that's intention and it's like, all right, that's why I want that. And maybe it comes to the point, as many financial folks talk about, maybe it's the thing where maybe you don't need $1 million. Maybe you need 100,000. Maybe you need to have a job that doesn't suck. Maybe you need to have all your bills paid every month and that makes you feel secure. So having that intention, I think is fine. Not being prepared for success, though, financially or otherwise, when it's pre feeling your feelings, then it's basically not allowing yourself to feel whatever you're going to be feeling when it happens. And yeah, when you have, I think about that with good friends or people that I care about that have had a major loss. And, you know, excuse me, often the first thing you'll say would be, well, I can't imagine how you feel. I'm so sorry. And so often they've said, well, you can't imagine how I feel because you don't know how you feel until, you know, fortunately or unfortunately, you have that loss. It's the same thing with success. To paraphrase Elizabeth Gilbert, who talks about this in this fantastic TED talk. If I remember, I'll go and throw it into the replay. She has two famous TED talks. Um, one is about creativity, and the other one is about dealing with success. And what she talks about is how she had runaway success, of course, from Eat, Pray, Love, her famous book that sold 10 million copies, or became a popular movie with Julia Roberts. I don't know, 15 years ago. But she talked about how that and that overwhelm felt the exact same way as when she was a broke waitress, I believe in Arizona somewhere, um, trying to make it as a writer. They felt the same. So it ends up being the same the same ride. It ends up being the same ride. And once you understand that, then you're like, oh, this I don't know what I'm going to feel. I can take a guess, maybe excuse me, I can get a nice therapist. Sorry. I think the heat is getting to me. But I can get a nice therapist, whatever, to be prepared for wherever it goes, or I'll go and get a network. We'll talk about that network that will support me with that. But you're not gonna be like, oh, well, I'm gonna feel this and I'm gonna feel this. You can't do that because what will happen is that once that success happens to you, and it does happen to us, we can plan for success, but we don't know when it's gonna happen. We don't know when we're gonna have the best selling book, or we're gonna become a millionaire, or we're gonna, I don't know, go out with this person that we've been want to go out with for a while. Like whatever the situation is, we don't know when it's going to happen. We can take a guess. Once it happens, you're on the roller coaster ride, and then whatever happens with it, you're going to have to roll with it. So number one, do not assume how you're going to feel. You can't cushion against that. And I have to remind myself of this all the time because I tend to be a strategist. So it's a gift and a curse. Makes me super helpful, hopefully, to serving y'all as a business coach and planning my career and my life and all those things, but not really helpful when there's big emotions that you don't necessarily know are coming. The second part of that is creating a flexible enough strategy so that you're able to adapt to whatever feelings come. There's circumstances where we might have a really big success, but it comes at a cost that we were not expecting. For instance, if you're able to build a successful business and it gets acquired or whatever your definition of success is, but then you treat your co-founder or the other people around you horribly. That, I mean, no matter how cold-hearted slash super capitalist or whatever you might be feeling, you still have those feelings. You can't process those ahead of time. So there might be a feeling of guilt when you have the success. What happens is that if we try to pre-feel our feelings, and I know this from personal experience, if we try to pre-feel our feelings too much, and then we end up getting the success or hitting the goal or whatever that we were aiming for, then those feelings that we did not account for end up knocking us on our ass. They just come out of nowhere, seemingly, because they weren't in our strategy, they weren't in our plan. So don't pre-feel your feelings. You don't know exactly what you're going to feel when you hit that mile mark. You just don't. Knock on wood, I've hit quite a few goals, you know, up until middle age here, and you don't know what you're going to feel. I talked about that in the complete bite size, please complete Bring Your Worth collection, but it's specifically in the very first book, The Bite Size Entrepreneur, where I talk about the experience of my company getting acquired. There were feelings that came out that I was like, whoa. And it took me literally months to process those feelings. Not that I did anything wrong, it's just you can't preset those feelings. So don't assume how you're going to feel once you hit that mark, and create a flexible enough strategy so that you're able to adapt to whatever you might be feeling. Those two things are so key. And trust me, again, on being on the other side of those things, I think it's really, really important. Speaking of feelings, big recommendation from one of my favorite authors and favorite thought leaders, if you want to call her that. Brene Brown, she talks about emotional intelligence. Her book, Rising Strong, it's a good starter kit as far as understand the power, the waves that our emotions can bring up, and how to deal with those things. And excuse me, when it comes to rising strong, it's really about coming back from defeat and or a challenging place. And oddly enough, when we have successes in our life, often, particularly the bigger successes, they're preceded by a trail of things that did not work out the way that we were planning. It's the kindest way I can put it. A trail of that. And so we have to rise strong from the things that didn't work out as well as we'd like to actually be able to show up for our success and to embrace it. If you have a series of things that did not work out the way that you wanted it to, and you label yourself in your mind a failure, what do you think is going to happen when you actually have and reach that goal or success that you had in mind? If you still believe in your heart that you're a failure, you're going to throw it away because it doesn't pattern match who you think you are. Okay, listen, I am excited for you if you have not had success yet based on your definition, because that means you still have time to prepare. This book is part of the preparation. Speaking of, did a master class at the end of last year, emotional intelligence, all the good stuff that I talked about with emotional intelligence, including some of the theories from Brene Brown. It's a deep dive. You know, take a Saturday, pour some coffee or something stronger, whatever you're into, and just zone out and listen to it. You're able to have a level of depth that will prepare you for your success. So, what about you specifically? Have you been in situations where you tried to pre-feel your feelings and packages it up? Again, I'm guilty as charged with me. And did that actually help you when that success, or frankly, when that failure ended up occurring? Did it protect you at all? I love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Again, it didn't always work out for me. I'll leave it at that. But we're all being vulnerable here. That's part of the vibe. And again, that's one of the reasons why I have Bring Your Worst Show, because I want to connect to y'all as a community to be like, hey, these are things that we go through, particularly with ambitious folks like myself and like you. Let us know in the comments, even if we're watching a replay. Still would love to see what's happening. You're watching Bring Your Worth TV. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown. If you want to learn more about me, if you want to coach with me, my lines are open. Feel free to reach out at damebrown.net. Bring Your Worth comes out on Wednesdays live at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You can subscribe for free. And today, we're talking about how you might not be ready for success. The next recommendation is to create the network you need next. Not the network you need now. Hopefully, you already got one. But if you're going to be prepared for success, you have to prepare for the network that you need next. What I mean by that is if you are working as a janitor and then you actually want to be an accountant for the next stage of your career, then you can go to the janitorial conferences. There are janitorial conferences. So janitorial and waste management conferences. There's a lot of big ones here. I believe in Las Vegas here, right here off the strip, not too far from my place. You're going to have colleagues and people that you connect with. You're going to be budgeting as far as your salary and all that based on a janitor or a waste management person's salary. Makes perfect sense. Okay. But then you want to be an accountant. So do you have anyone in your network that's an accountant? Do you have anyone around um, who already has like their, I think it's called the CPA. So someone that has their CPA, someone that actually is already doing the stuff that you want to be doing next. I think that's a key part of the experience of getting to the next level. With me, I was and have been a longtime journalist. I have 2 degrees in journalism, and so I had that. But once I got my degree in journalism, I realized I wanted to actually run a publication or a platform. So then I got to know and have people in my network who were publishers or who were editors who were at such a high level that they were kind of running the publication. And then when I wanted to get more into books, then that satellite grew into people who were best-selling authors, who were authors who were struggling, still trying to figure out their niche, people who were they're called mid-list authors who are kind of like the middle class of authors where they don't have super high highs, but they don't have lows either. I had all those folks. Shout out to the American Society of Journalists and Authors, where I met a lot of those people. I became a board member later on in my career. And so that ended up being representative of success I actually wanted to have. So it's like, yes, I'm an accomplished newspaper author, and I'm getting into magazines and all these other things. At the time, blogs were relatively new and websites, so I was already starting to master and get into those. And I'm like, but I want to write books. Okay, well then my network needs to reflect that. My network reflects that. You know, it's I think it's so important to understand that. And yes, exactly. We often celebrate the person on top of the mountain without recognizing the climb. Exactly, and that's a call back to Brene Brown. Thank you, but that's exactly it. And so, not recognizing those different steps that you need to take along the way. If you invest, and I don't mean like necessarily pay money. If you want to go to the conferences and pay money, that's cool. I go to the TED conference. And I get it. I get it. When I say invest, though, I don't mean like literally always give people money. What I mean is, again, going to the conferences as well as investing your other resources, time, energy, ways you can barter. I can think of quite a few instances where I bartered with people that I knew that they had insight or resources that I could really use to help me. But then also knew that I was an expert at or good at these other things. And it's like, oh, do you guys need this? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, bet. Why don't we go ahead and help each other? And there's a lot of success that I had just based on that energy. If you're able to do that, then you're able to go even further and start to learn the language, start to learn the the culture, the what's required for your success. Like I say this in my keynotes all the time. If a thought leader or if someone were to call me right now and be like, hey, we love you to keynote this series, it'll be this is what we're working with and you'd be on the road X amount of time. I already know like the dynamics I'd have to create to make sure that my kids are taken care of while I was on the road. I know what my worth is as far as how much I charge as a speaker. I already have the 431 episodes of this. We're watching episode 431 right now and hanging out to know what's required of the show while I'm on the road. Because obviously, I won't be able to do the show on the road because I'd be keynoting. I already have all my books available and have the publishing set up so that I can get them a bunch of copies so they can sell. Like all those structures and systems are built in. Those I take pride in having those systems built in because I'm ready for whatever phone calls might come. I'm ready. That's what's really getting at as far as creating the network you need next. I know what to charge for a keynote. I know how to handle things with being busy and also making sure that my family's taken care of. I know what products, including books, that I need when I'm on the road and when I'm speaking. I know that because my network over the past decade, decade and a half, 2 decades, however long you want to go back. If I sit there and think about it, maybe even further back than that, going back to grad school and all those things, they gave me the insight so that I was prepared for whatever success might come next. So as far as selling my startup, about 10 years ago called Cuddler, again, I talked about that in the previous episode. The links are below. So in episode 430, um, whether it's having the best-selling book and then knowing how to leverage being on the bestseller list, like all those little details that came from my network. It wasn't like, I knew this at birth. If you can establish your network well enough, then not only will you be able to become successful, but you'll be able to stay successful. That's what you really want. There's so many folks, I love music. You see John Coltrane up there. So many folks, particularly unfortunately, like the hip hop community, as well as, to be honest, in the younger rock community, where they get these, I don't know, $10 million contracts, $100 million contracts. They're getting 500,000 a show, and then they're broke a year later. It's not just because of that lifestyle. It's also because they didn't have a network that was like, hey, yo, don't do that. Don't no. Again, you're gonna have the gray hair one day. You might not want to do that. They didn't have that. So it's not so we're talking about not being ready for success. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be successful. What I'm saying is once you're successful, are you actually ready for it? That's a different question. Again, it's not clickbait to be like, "Oh, you're not ready." It's more like, "No, I believe you're going to be successful." That's why I coach. That's why I do this free show. Like, I believe in you. The question is, once you get that success, can you keep it? That's the question. And I think a key part of that is making sure your network's tight. My network is great. It helps me sleep at night because I've seen some of that success, and whew, without people in your corner, man, that is a lonely road. One quick sidebar, which y'all might appreciate. Again, I'm a big music guy, and I love listening to musicians, and some of my good friends are musicians. I don't play anything myself, but I'm surrounded by people that do. And remember hearing Lionel Richie, of course, the the famous R&B singer from the 70s and 80s, 70s with the Commodores, 80s on his own. Very much a part of my childhood because you can do the math. And I remember him talking about success, and I think it was one year when All Night Long came out, and Say You Say Me I think came out. It was just this year where kind of like a Kendrick Lamar year. He just had a year like that where he did the Super Bowl, got Grammys, and of course, had the big battle with Drake and all that stuff. It was one of those years for him, and he was like, and this years later he was talking about it, but it had to be 1986, 87, something like that, mid 80s. And he's like, look, I was on stage and I got like 5 Grammys. It was ridiculous. It was kind of like Michael Jackson where he's holding all the Grammys. You see the famous shot of him and Quincy Jones. But it was like that. He's holding all the Grammys. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, I made it to the top. I made it to the top. And then he was like, what no one tells you is that no one else is at the top with you. You're there alone. That's cliche. It's only at the top. It's true. That's what he was saying. It broke my heart. And I heard him say that ages ago. Ages ago. And this was probably, I think he said that probably about 10 years ago. I guess it was ages ago. And it stuck with me. In fact, it had to be longer than that because before I had some of my bigger successes. And I was like, wow, how sad that to be successful, you have to be alone because not many people can understand. You know, the more rare your success, the less people are going to understand. But now I understand, as you're talking about, that I'm like, wait, you didn't have a support network. You didn't have one person or several people that stood by your side. Your day ones, as we say. You didn't have the people there from day one. So of course it was lonely. When I had Cuddler, I was with my partner at the time and had my beautiful baby boy who was probably he just turned 2. And I had the rest of my family, but my nuclear family was just the 3 of us. The day we sold the app, I was like, "Hey, take us out to dinner," and celebrated with them. When I had my first major bestseller, I had my second kid, and then at that time it was the 4 of us. Now I have a network of probably about 12 people, chosen family, some of them are actual family. So I know if I get that proverbial phone call I was talking about earlier, I'm not going to lose my mind. Listen to Lionel Richie. If you don't have the journey people in your network, you have a hole in your net. Couldn't have said it better. Thank you. That is word is bond. One of my favorite books that talks about networks is the Songs of Significance. Where is it? There it is. Love having a live show. Seth Godin, shout out to Seth Godin. Hope you're doing well. The Song of Significance, fantastic little book. You notice there's a B on the front. And in fact, I have my cup. I love my cup, by the way. I have my cup that's actually has the same B on there. The B, of course, represents the group. So Seth is similar to me, independent, creating stuff on his own. Big advocate for that. He's been a mentor and guiding light as far as stuff I do. And even him, this is his second to last book that he did. It just came out a couple years ago. Even he's like, no, it's a beehive. You need to connect with other people, and by you connecting with other people, you're serving other people. By serving other people will serve you. There you go. Buy the book anyway. That's the basic idea of it. Significance means how are you making an impact on the world? How are you bringing your worth? Love you, Seth. Fantastic book. And then what I was just talking about, discover the secret to achieving success with a board, personal board of directors to be specific. It's episode 100. So this episode came out like 3 or 4 years ago, and I still recommend it. If you're not sure where to start as far as your network, this is a great place to start. So what about y'all? If you were to be successful right now, I mean right now, again, you get that proverbial phone call right now, at this second. You're like, oh, I can't watch Damon's show anymore. I can't tune in. I got this phone call. Oh, success literally rings. Again, I've had it happen before. Look at my eyes. I've no reason to BS you. Seen it, did it, been there. It changes like that. Do you actually have a network, a personal board of directors, whatever you want to call it? Your people, your day ones, I don't care. Whatever you call it. Do you have that? If you're going after a particular success, do you have a network that's going to sustain that success for you? It's about sustainability. I don't think I can emphasize it anymore. Let me know in the comments. Do you got the support network? Are you trying to build one? Heck, if you end up jumping in the comments, maybe there's some people that can join your support network here. We're all after the same energy. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown, here to help you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. You're watching Bring It Worth TV Wednesdays live at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. It is getting hot. Forgive me for the sweat. We are live as heck from Vegas. I'll try to keep it PG. You subscribe for free right below. This is episode 431, and we're talking about why you might not be ready for success. Again, it's not trying to be a downer towards you. I want you to be in a position where you can actually hold on to your success, actually build your success versus it just being something that you're rocking with. All right. When it comes to keeping your success, when it comes to being ready for success, you have to make room for success. You got to make room for it. You can't just be like, oh, I want to be successful, and then you don't have any space you got for success. As I talked about in the previous segment, I'm setting up my systems to actually do more stuff because my version of success is different. My kids are 9 and almost 12. So they can make breakfast on their own half the time. And they actually don't want me in their face all the time. Starting to get that teenage angst there. So that's different than when I sold my startup 10 years ago and one kid wasn't born yet. He's just an apple of our eyes. And then the other one had just turned two. A little bit different. So the definition of success is different. Therefore, the room I need to make for success is different. So success might be traveling a little bit more for my work. Couldn't do that. I'm a stay-at-home parent. Couldn't do that. Couldn't do that. And take my kids in diapers on the road. Nah. Did that a couple times. It was lovely. So not only do you need to make room for your success, but that room is going to evolve. It's going to change it to different things. Exactly. You want to be ready so you don't have to get ready. And that really begins with right now. The first part of it is to let go what you don't need right now. If you don't need something right now, let it go. I recently went through, as I regularly do, I went through my budget, and I realized it was like probably 5 or 6 things in there, you know. And you see a lot of ads for services that'll do that. Shout out to them. They're fine, but I'll just do it by hand and be like, wait, why am I paying for this and all that? And I'm like, oh, I got that service 2, 3 years ago when I was launching this book. And I was like, yeah, I need that for this book. That book launched 3 years ago. In fact, I might have did a book since then. I don't need it anymore. Oh yeah, that's where I was part of. I joined this newsletter or joined this online group because of this specific thing or because this is what my life was about. Oh crap, my life's not about that anymore. As we talked about in the previous segment, it's similar to your social network, where if you're doing the proverbial janitorial services, but then you really want to be an accountant, then maybe you should stop getting Waste Management Magazine, which really exists. But I don't know if that's the title, but those trades exist. Shout out to the trades. Then maybe you stop getting the $200 a year subscription to it. I'm not just talking financially, but I'm talking about space as far as resources. So how can you make room for that? Again, I'm always putting systems in place so that if I know my North Star is that way, then when I do get that opportunity, when as they say, luck, um, luck is when opportunity meets preparation, I believe. I might be screwing up, but you know where I'm going. Once that locks in, my big thing is timing. So if it's that time, I want to make sure I'm ready. Bags packed, stuff organized, at least 80% there, and then letting it go. And you bring up a really good point. Determine what no longer serves your higher self in your new journey with appreciation, release it. There you go. And if you look at it like a rocket ship, and my kids are really into rocket ships, that's why I know this. Rocket ships, when they're going to the moon or perhaps in the future to Mars or to the International Space Station or whatever, the floating little apartment that's going around the Earth for the last 15, 20 years. When it goes up, it doesn't take everything with it. It's actually in at least two different parts. So the main part is here, where the people are, or the plants or whatever they're sending up there. And then as it starts to get towards the atmosphere, the rest of it falls off. That's what you're doing. What's the part that's supposed to be falling off? Then I'd say number two is to build up the habits that you're going to need later. What are the habits that you're going to need later? If again you're currently a janitor, then you might need to keep it's a very physical job, so you might need to be very physical and keep your health up. Maybe wear a mask because you're dealing with a lot of chemicals and stuff like that. Like that might be a thing. You might need to take care of your feet more because you're on your feet all day. But then you want to become a CPA and or an accountant. Okay, well then you're gonna be sitting most of the time. You might need to understand the law about what needs to be shared and then what counts as client patient privilege, because they have laws that are similar to HIPAA, which is for doctors, or to the which I think also falls to HIPAA with like therapists and stuff like that. Like there's certain things that's the patient confidentiality. How does that apply to like I don't know. I'm not an accountant. I hire an accountant. I don't. That's not my thing. Excuse me. But what are those habits, those structures that you actually need to, again, not only embrace success when it gets here, but also to stay successful, right? Um, back to some of the music examples I was given earlier. It's like the folks that are like, "Hey, I got a deal. 10 million seems to be on my mind today. Hey, I'm a rapper. I got a deal for $10 million. I got generational money, right? Sounds like it. All right, but then you have taxes here in America. That's going to be taking about 45% of that. It's taking a guess. And so you really have, maybe 5 million. Let's say 5 million. Then you have your agent and all these other things. All right. So they might take, agents usually take between 10 and 20%. So then you really have 4 million. And then you have the rest of your family who might be in the hood, who might be having hard times, who are seeing you on TV. And it's like, oh, I want to support them. I want to take care of that. So then you might have a couple million. Then you read the fine details, and there's actually a 7 album deal, which is a lot. And then they might have a contingency in there where they don't want to saturate the market. They don't want people to get sick of you. So you can only release an album, let's say every 18 months, which is pretty aggressive. So every year and a half. So now you have $2 million that's going to last you the next, say, 15 years. And you start to chop that up, you're really making about 300,000 a year, which is fantastic. I'm not trying to shade that. Actually, a lot less than that. Oh my gosh, my math is off today. You're making about 100,000 a year. That's it. 100,000 a year is great. You can live off of that, but that's from a $10 million contract. And so, if you don't know the music business, then you might be like, I'm gonna become the biggest star in the world and sign multi-million-dollar contracts. But then you don't have a lawyer in the wings, not one that you're paying yet, but one in the wings. Like I got a network of lawyers. So when I needed a lawyer, I was able to reach out to them. Some of them were giving me pro bono information. That's because they were in my network already. They were hanging out with me, or I was hanging out with them and taking care of them before I even needed them. Because I knew I eventually would. If I want that level of success, lawyers are going to be a part of it. You're talking about these numbers? I'm probably going to need a lawyer eventually. That's the energy that you want to have. What do you need for your success? Start with what you don't need for your success, and then go into what you actually need for your success. Right? I know. That's why I love these stories. You know what I'm saying? That's why I love these stories. Because they're blueprints for all the stuff that we're all going to go through if we're going to be successful entrepreneurs. So that's what I want to arm you with. That's such an important part of the discussion. And we tend to forget that because we're just focused on the goal and not on staying where we're successful. If you're going to get rid of stuff, there's a book to start, Essentialism by Greg McKeown. Fantastic book. If you've been a long time watcher, as I say, long time listener, first time caller. If you're one of those folks, you know how I care about this book. It's fantastic. It basically talks about how you can strip your life down to the things that are most important. If you if everything is a priority, then nothing's a priority. That's the bottom line of the book. It shows you how to do it. Can't recommend it more. And so we were talking about money anyway. What to do with a financial windfall when we're dealing with success? Then we're gonna have those moments where we're super broke. Been there. And those times where it's like, oh wow, I'm in a whole different tax bracket. That's part of the vibe. That's part of the roller coaster. Particularly if your goals include money and or doing things that provide a lot of money. You should probably get prepared for it. Definitely check out the episode. It's a classic one from like 2 or 3 years ago. I love having these discussions because I was talking to a friend recently, and they were like, "Hey, thank you for bringing up money," because I was talking about some money stuff that was going on with me. And they're like, "Yeah, I appreciate that because I forget how good it feels to talk to a peer because we're around the same age to talk to a peer about money because at least here in America, it's generally taboo, and it's like, no, this is. But the same thing about money could be said about feeling like a failure. When I sold my startup, part of me felt like I failed because of the expectations that I had. It took me months to work that out. Shout out to the folks that supported me with that. A lot of that stuff I nodded and then I ended up sharing in the complete Bring Your Worth collection. Not as a hype to buy the book, but saying that was part of my therapy. There was real therapy. There's actually a therapist, a couple of therapists I did see, and there was my network that supported me. But part of that therapy was also writing about and sharing it with y'all. And so if we talk about these taboo topics, where you want to be successful, but you're not sure what your priorities are, I'd rather you deal with that now than before you get the multi-million dollar contract or you're on the bestseller list or you sell your business, whatever. Do it now. Prepare for that. So, how are you making room for success right now? That might be the most important question of this whole episode. Let me know in the comments. I love to hear. Would love to hear. I'm entrepreneur coach Damon Brown, here to help you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. You're watching Bring Your Worth TV, and today we talked about why you might not be ready for success. If you're watching a replay, then let's go ahead and do a link to the Emotional Intelligence Masterclass. So if you're watching the replay, you're going to see, I think it's going to be suggested around my big head somewhere. If you're watching some of the other platforms, all the blinks, not the blinks, all the links are below. Thank you for the comments. Thanks y'all for coming through. I look forward to seeing y'all in whatever success you are and seeing you there for decades to come. Until next time, next Wednesday, remember you can always bring your worth. You can always build from now. Take care of